We're live.
Everybody else?
All righty, it is Tuesday, April 21st at 6:10 p.m. We're running a few minutes behind, but we'll call the Grayson County Planning Commission to order at this time. Opening business is the approval of agenda. Anyone have any issues with the agenda tonight? Or do we have a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of April 17th, 2026 meeting minutes, which you should have received in your packet. Any amendments need to be made?
I move that we approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda meeting, the meeting minutes from March 17th of 2026. Do we have a second? Have a second. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The public hearing for tonight has been canceled. So we move right along into the old business. Subdivision ordinance update. Review clarifications on questions from the last meeting and consider subdivision ordinance public hearing. So we'll turn it over to staff at this time.
All right, good evening, Planning Commission. I do know that we had some technical issues with getting the questionnaire pulled up. So basically all it was an email from our attorney that had put our subdivision together. And then basically I copied and pasted from the back of your minutes when we were in review and discussion last month. There were some things that the Planning Commission wanted the attorney to clarify. So basically, I sent him just that, asking him to clarify the 4 facts: family division, the right of way, further clarify Article 6-3 for single division, and discuss restructuring the fees of Class 1, 2, and PUDs subdivisions. And so that is exactly what that email was. I apologize that we can't get it pulled up, but I'll read it. So basically when I sent it to him, he wrote, "Hey Jada, you can put," now this is in regards to family divisions. We had asked, I'll just read it. We had asked about family divisions, adding a 2-year sale restriction passage to prevent the circumvention of the ordinance, with an extra variance clause allowing family members to sell the parcel if a hardship is determined, and the agent can waive the restrictions. So he replied back and said, you can put restrictions up to 15 years on the sale of lots outside of the family and require a covenant if you so desire. Because 2 years is less than 15, I think you can do that. I think we need to phrase the language carefully. His question back to the Planning Commission was, what would you see as a sufficient situation to prevent a waiver?
You're talking like what kind of hardship?
Yeah.
I think anything that required money to resolve.
Bankruptcy for sure.
That the agent could, or the designated agent could waive the restriction to have to hold the parcel for the extra 2 years, or so bankruptcy.
Tax tax issues.
Anything else?
Stuff.
That's tough, I know, and that's,
Divorce settlement.
Yeah,
Medical expenses for some.
yeah, medical.
a big ball that at the bank that needed to be paid, I mean. These are all really good. So, you know, what would you see as sufficient situation to permit a waiver?
Do you have them provide like bank statements of what they have, or is there a limit of, if you got more than this, then it don't qualify, or if it's less than this, then you can say,
Well, I mean, I'm taking your ideas and I'm gonna put them back in his email and say, you know, these are some of the things that the planning commission
Well,
has
we got-
decided that might be waiver worthy.
So what we got, bankruptcy, medical, divorce, tax.
Anything else?
Just curiosity, would death play a part in that? Say a family member passes away.
Family death.
Things may not be settled, things may not be settled, and it needs to be settled before the lot can sell.
Any rain stirring?
All right.
I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there.
So death of that particular landowner.
Yeah.
If it's not, you know, well, I guess it could potentially, well, some people don't have wheels, so. Yeah, I think that would be a criteria, would definitely meet the criteria.
That could just keep snowballing though.
I know.
And
What
this
if-
could really.
What if
Really?
their spouse passed and they needed the money to pay for their funeral?
Right.
Well, in that case, the husband or wife would automatically have control of that land. I would think.
I know, but I mean, we're talking about them, if they just bought it, having them to hold on to it
Right.
for so long before they could sell it.
Right. What was kind of going through my head when I mentioned it was, say the mom or dad passes away and the other one has already passed away. The land goes to the kids and then they're fighting and bickering and can't settle anything. Well, it would have to be settled, I would think, before that lot could be sold. Does that make sense? Because, I mean, it would have to be divided up properly, like anything else. And whoever inherited it would then be able to sell it if they so chose. But while it was in the progress of getting there, I think that would be circumstances where it maybe might play a part in it. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Well, if it was deeded to like a son or a daughter and the parent died and they had to pay for the funeral,
Mm-hmm.
that was an expense on them that they wasn't expecting. So
Right.
that's the same kind of.
But it's already deeded to them in that case. But where nothing has been deeded or put in the kids' names, all that has to be settled prior to a lot going up for sale, I would think.
You're
selling it is,
What's settled, isn't it?
well,
I said, what's selling it is what's gonna settle.
Right.
that, I mean, you know,
That's what I'm getting at, if it has been deeded to a son or a daughter, it's in their name. And then that same family member that deeded passed away, or anybody for that matter. And they were left with the expense of a funeral or that they would have to sell to pay for that.
right?
I don't know how much it costs, huh?
But say there's 2, 3, 4 children and it's not been deeded, well then everything has to go through the process of who gets what. I would think before that lot would be able to sell.
Yeah, but what we're talking about is it's already been deeded, right?
Yeah.
It's already been
They're,
deeded, okay.
they're
Okay.
already lotted up and
It's already
then,
been deeded to.
Okay, well, strike it. So,
So they already own it.
right, it's already in their name,
yeah,
so.
and
that
You
should
just
be
need-
no problem.
Matter of what would,
what constitutes a waiver?
yeah.
What
And
critical
like-
aspect, life scenario that would constitute the designated agent to waive the retainer of 2 years?
Well, like Lisa said, that could just snowball, cause,
Yeah.
I mean, we could add a million things,
Right.
but if we don't set like,
And we've got 4 major issues that,
Yeah, absolutely.
that's just thing, if we don't set an amount, like, if they can't come and prove to you or whoever that I've only got this much money, I have this expense, I gotta sell it to pay this off. So if we don't draw a line that it's this,
Right.
then
Leaving a little gray?
well, how about just leaving that to the agent?
Well, we've got bankruptcy, tax, medical expenses, divorce, debt. Can we just put debt? And they have to sell it to pay the,
They, you know,
that's an excuse to
that's
sell
an
it.
excuse to sell it, but not
Excuse
a
to sell.
full reason to sell it.
And how do you know they're actually gonna pay the debt?
True.
well, you don't.
So the question comes back, I'm gonna just put this back out there. Should we just forget about the clause? Should we just leave the 2 years? I mean, I really wanted it there, but it's not necessary. We don't have to put it there. Maybe that was the reason it wasn't there to begin with.
Well, 2 years is not, it's not like,
Time
I'm not
flies,
throwing a 15-year thing on there.
right?
To where they're gonna be bound to that, paying taxes on it for 13 years that they didn't wanna be.
The intent was to not circumvent the ordinance to create additional parcels to be sold and, and then we have a subdivision that wasn't planned for.
But if we make it too vague, it's gonna circumvent it
It's
anyway.
going, exactly.
Because they can say, I just need the money, I gotta sell it.
Right.
And then it's up to you or somebody to just decide
Well,
whether it's legit or not.
there should be a certain amount of debt. You couldn't sell it, pay off $500.
Well, that's what I say, we had to set an amount,
Yeah.
like this is, you have to draw a line somewhere, or just not do it. Because like Lisa said, if you just add all this stuff up, then,
That's
well,
it.
I got to because I got a divorce, or, yeah, I got to because of whatever.
We got divorced. Let's just drop the debt. And then, what are you gonna do is that, well, you gotta have a debt of, how much is the land worth? You gotta have a debt of $20,000.
Right, so I mean, there could be small parcels like an acre, and it's not gonna give you $20,000 for that acre.
Depends on where it's located.
With the right buyer.
Why do we care whether they sell it or not?
Just to prevent them from creating subdivisions.
Right off.
Yeah,
Just
right
to
off the
say-
bat, just
just
continue, it's
simply
just
to
gonna,
sell
and then that expires, is gonna break it up and sell it, it just. A lot of people may not care about keeping or retaining their family land.
Yeah.
They're looking at
Money.
the dollar, yeah. We don't have to make a decision, but this is just something that,
Well, after you mentioned we wouldn't have to, I mean, like I said 2 years ain't that long. I don't know that to keep from muddying the water or making it too vague, maybe we should just say it's just simply 2 years.
and from the date that the deed goes into your name, then you gotta hold on to it for 2 years.
And then if they have one of those criteria we just talked about, we get to decide.
I don't know, I don't think we're even gonna consider that, I think it's just flat out 2 years, and
Just a crazy question. Why is it 2 years?
you weren't here last meeting, and so we decided, you've got, the state statutes say 15 years. You can't go beyond 15 years, you can't be more stringent than that, but you can be more lax than 15.
We're
So we
about as
gave-
lax as.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I was
we
just
gave
curious
it 2 years.
where the 2 years came from.
Yeah, they've got 50 acres. They can create a subdivision.
Whatever the commission wants.
Go with Jay, 2 years.
Just leave it flat out 2 years. Everybody good with that?
I am. Just being the devil's advocate, what if somebody couldn't pay the taxes on it, but it had the funds, so they inherited 100 acres and couldn't pay the taxes because they didn't have the funds to do it? 2 years
Well, it
is
won't
a
get,
long time.
it won't
adding
get
up
sold
on
in,
it.
it won't get sold in 2 years. Does that make sense? It takes 5 or 6 or 7 before it'll actually go on.
But that's a good question, because if it did, then we could put that the only
Only,
is, it could not be sold on courthouse steps. They would have 2 years to catch up
To
taxes.
catch up
but
taxes.
It takes longer than that before they ever sell it.
sell it.
How
Well,
about,
I understand that too, but
how about we put it in 2 years and then say that the designated agent can consider
a waiver.
a waiver, yeah.
But I would have to know what that consists of. You're leaving a gray area there and everybody's gonna say,
Yeah, 'cause
well,
if you-
can't you just do it because of who I am, or I need the money, or my mom died,
Just
or,
like those
and I'm gonna
taxes.
get every pity story there is.
On those taxes, if they couldn't pay them, then you're gonna end up with penalties, interest, and all that added on to those 2 years.
Some people.
And if those taxes were $10,000 or more,
Some people worry themselves sick over it. Others would care. I mean, where it's at.
Understood. I understood that, but there's also provisions inside of the treasurer's office to be able to make small payments to keep it out of the rears. Do we want to come back to this?
Probably better.
I think we might, and then wait for,
Like what Dan said, if you left it up to you or whoever it is, but then if you let somebody because of this reason, and then the next one you're like, that's not a legitimate reason,
right,
then
Yeah.
you're the one that's getting
smeared.
thrown under the bus saying, well,
Well,
it's not fair.
Yeah.
Well, what about-
Each decision you made would set a precedent,
What about the The stipulation being they would have to present their case to the Board of Supervisors to receive the waiver.
Put it on them.
I mean, that's what they're for. In one sense.
I don't know. I could put it back to you guys.
Well, again, I'm thinking.
I mean, that'd have to be a hardship. How do you define the hardship?
That's what the Board of Supervisors.
I mean, I know
will
what a
determine.
hardship is when it comes to a variance, because basically that's what you're granting is a variance. Makes
That's
me
why I
wonder if
think
it wouldn't go to the BZA. I don't know, we're really getting down into the weeds now.
Everybody's opinion of what a hardship is.
It's totally
It's
different.
completely different.
That's why I say if we had a set, limit of provide bank statements that you have this much money, and if it's less than that, and you have these bills coming in, then that, and I don't know what that value would be, but if you don't set something like that, it can, I mean, it could go on.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I was getting at, present their case to the Board of Supervisors.
Yeah.
If they're the leaders of the county, they
I
can
have this
determine.
much, I've got this coming in, but I've got to pay off, I can't do it without selling my piece of property.
This is the only choice I have. And then they can provide the waiver or not.
But I don't think we can leave it as vague as a hardship, because that, everybody's got a different opinion.
What's
on
a, what's
what
a
that
hardship to you might not be a hardship to me.
All right. I can ask the attorney if that would be a request that we could add in there, is just that that person has a situation that comes up, but they have to present it to the Board of Supervisors.
Yeah.
And get on their docket and present their case.
Maybe he would have some language that is appropriate.
And see, no other counties do this, so that's why I love Grayson County, because we're looking out for the locals. You know, if they gotta have it, we
Yeah, you don't
make
want to
it work.
prevent
We're
it,
not
but you,
gonna,
Right, we try to help them.
Yeah.
And that would give every citizen we have, if they run into this, an opportunity to present their case and have more than one making the decision to provide the waiver or not.
even if it did just come back to us. I mean, if it didn't have to go to the Board of Supervisors.
yeah, I mean, it could,
This
It
not to where it's putting it on one person to make that
Right.
decision.
Because that
so you would be agreement, it would be BOS or PC?
I would.
I still like the Board of Supervisors.
Well, I'm gonna shoot for that, just
Well, maybe
because they are the
if-
hierarchy.
What
Yeah,
if the
we
Board
were
of
to the Board of
Supervisors, they'll be
Supervisors.
back to the planning commission, which they could do.
No,
Then,
they would appeal, then that person would then appeal the decision to the Supreme Court,
right,
maybe? Well, that, I'm not Supreme Court, I mean Circuit Court.
We're digging a deeper and deeper hole.
I know.
but they still have an appeal process.
Okay, let me formulate all that. Shoot that back over to the attorney, and we'll move on, because we could be here all night talking about this, what if.
I need to be home by 8:00.
Well, we're gonna get you there. Promise.
The lady staying with my wife is good to 8:00.
Okay. well, we'll
She
get
probably wouldn't leave.
Well. So the next question was, and it was something that came up, was the right of way. We had this whole lengthy discussion about fee simple language. And in it, I said this wording is concerning because it might not align with what the landowners want to include in a subdivision of their parcel. How can it be clarified? So his response was, and he gave a definition. As far as rights of ways go, a right of way, quote, is a very specific thing and is different from a private road or an ingress and egress easement. A right of way is a strip of land set aside to be used by the general public for passage for the location of public utilities and intended for ultimate acceptance by VDOT as a part of the primary or secondary highway system. An easement for the purposes of having a private road or for the purposes of ingress and egress is private and is dedicated for specific uses. They do not carry a general right of public passage, and they are not maintained by VDOT. And he questioned, does this distinction help better understand why the difference is there?
I ain't gonna fight it, but one question you could just ask him is, so all right-of-ways are in fee simple? Question mark, because they're not.
So all right-of-ways
Are all right-of-ways
All
in fee simple?
are,
What does that mean?
all are, I can't get it out, but are all right-of-ways in fee
Fee
simple.
And what does that mean? Be simple.
Fee simple means you own that strip of land, whatever the width is, whether it's 30, 40 foot right of way or whatever. A right of way can be an easement, but an easement can't be a right of way. Yeah.
So if you have let's say I have a parcel of land and you have a right of way through it, you own that instead of me?
Not necessarily, you can.
Yeah.
If it's in fee simple, but if you have a right of way for ingress and egress, which is what he's saying, it's specific to one thing. So if you have a right of way for ingress and egress, it's only for that purpose. It's not on the piece line.
Right.
Okay.
And that's the only thing that concerns me, because I put right of ways on my maps all the time, and it's a right of way for going and coming.
Going and coming
It's
in.
not saying that the right of way that it's in place for, that they actually own that piece of land. It's just for them to come get it. So not all right of ways are in fee simple. And I think that's how it read in the ordinance, was in fee simple.
Mhm.
It
It
is.
does.
That's,
Yeah.
So we need to
That's
clarify
dangerous.
that somehow if it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if someone
Because that
has
would
a
be
right of
somebody
way
taking
through your property, you can't build something on the right of way. Yeah.
your
Yeah.
land.
They piece of your land, they maintain it, they can do with whatever they want. So
But you may not want them. You may want to give them the right of way to go through there,
they're not
but
giving
you
the
do
land.
not want to give them that piece of land.
That's right. So you can have a right of way that's not in fee simple. And that was something I noticed in the ordinance. It says in fee simples. So fee simple is not, just because it's a right of way, does not mean it's in fee simple. So if you ask him that question, then
it will,
he'll
should jog
his
the,
wheels turning.
okay. All right,
So we can move on.
okay. The next thing we asked was to clarify single division in exemption Article 6, Section 6-3. And his response was, I think that Section 6-3A is pretty clear, and that even if a division need not comply with the ordinance in full, it still has to be approved by the agent.
Which it has been.
It has been for, so we question that, but he thinks that the
Still
language
considered.
there is just that.
Okay. So it's still considered a subdivision, but it's
Still a single
single. It's
subdivision.
our,
I guess it's our lingo.
it is.
It's
It is.
our on Grayson County lingo. Okay. Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Still have to come before the designated agent, still has to be signed off on. And then the last one, discuss restricting fees only for subdivision class 1, 2, and PUDs, not for each survey plat reviewed by the agent. He just came back, how to structure fees is 100% up to the Board of Supervisors. So I have been doing some research, just because I was asked by the administration in regards to erosion and sediment control fees. When I went out for requests for proposals, I was receiving back fee schedules for those services because we no longer have an erosion and sediment control plan reviewer in-house. So we as a county contract with a firm, and we have for the last 5 years. And those fees, basically, I hold in my budget for planning a specific line item for professional services. And so when I get plan reviews for erosion and sediment control, I send them to this firm. Well, the administration office specifically wanted me to get some new information on this because it was not right for the citizens of Grayson County to pay for someone's development. So that's just what it is. So in the process of getting erosion and sediment control fees, what other localities around us, when I say around, it's Galax, Carroll, Grayson, not Grayson, Washington, Wyeth, Smith. I went a Bland, and I kind of went all around us. They're everywhere. But remember that most everyone also has a plan reviewer in-house, which we don't any longer. I also obtained some of the zoning fees and subdivision fees. So I'm trying to work through that now. So now that we're just working through these other things, I'll be able to hopefully be able to provide you a spreadsheet of all of the localities and what they charge. But just remember that Wyeth does not have zoning, and Galax, Wyeth and Carroll don't have zoning, and neither does Bland. So it's really hard to actually put some of those fees.
Why wouldn't the person who's developing the land pay the fees?
And that's what we need to adjust in the erosion sediment control. Okay, so it was really odd because Smith County, I thought this was really interesting. They charge $125 plus $25 for every week that the project stays unstabilized. So they got to have grass for stabilization. So they were charging $125 plus $25 per week for every week that your project does. Exactly, your grass don't come up. So it's almost, it's pushing them to, it's pushing them to actually comply with the erosion sediment control laws, because technically you either got to have temporary seed and mulch down, or you got a permanent vegetation. But that would be really hard to actually control, especially if it just be in one person. I'm not sure how you do that. But most everybody's like $125. So it's just really, really weird across the board. Nothing is consistent. Same with subdivision, and same with zoning. Nothing is consistent. Everybody has their own thought process.
We don't have a lot of that happening right now, though, do we?
What, erosion?
I mean, as far as development to where they have to have a
Subdivision.
E&S plan.
Yeah. I've done, most everything is agreement in lieu of. But those are $60 flat. But remind you that I'm paying an inspector to go out and review those every 14 days or after a significant rain event. So just a lot to think about on those fees. Okay, but I'll put that Excel spreadsheet in our board packet for the next month after I get it all put together. All right. The next on the agenda was to consider the subdivision ordinance public hearing. I don't think we're ready for that. I still think we've got to come back and talk about family division, fees, right-of-ways, fee simple, and we're good on the subdivision side, I think. That's the only one that we agreed upon. So the rest of them, we really need to talk a little more through that.
Okay. Any questions before we move on? All right. Next on the agenda, new business, rezone preliminary and zoning ordinance review. Cresthaven Vet Services rezone review. Ms. Black, we'll let you.
All right, we're gonna start with Cresthaven. Originally, we were supposed to hold a public meeting tonight in regards to the Cresthaven Vet Services. I was under the assumption when she completed the application that we were going to review and rezone all 27 acres. But unknowing to me, she had a different thought process and I wasn't aware, so I had to cancel the public hearing because of improper advertisement. And Justin has so graciously also provided a section of the, Brian, can you pull up that and just kind of no, you're good. Can you just thumb through it and see if you can get to the GIS picture that's inside of the staff report? There we go. This will help for everybody that's here. Basically, Mr. Funk of Funk Surveying has provided a snapshot of what Miss Mary Tomlinson is considering on the rezoning. And the reason, as part of that, she will also have to have for us to be able to consider the rezoning, she will have to have a different parcel number for that particular parcel given by the commissioner's office. In addition to all of this, as part of a rezone, I have to submit the application to VDOT. VDOT had a lot to say about this. So that was another reason that I canceled it. Originally, like I said, I thought it was the whole 27-acre parcel and there wouldn't be an issue, but apparently there is an issue for line of sight. So Ms. Tomlinson knows this and is working with VDOT. So until we get approval from VDOT, it very likely could be, after talking with Ms. Tomlinson, that we may have to go to a different parcel to be able to get this vet services in. So basically what she's wanting to do is just a haul-in vet services for those people, farmers, micro farming, people that may not have head gates and chutes and that sort of thing to be able to provide services to. So they would bring their animals to this facility for her to be able to doctor. Potentially this would be rezoned to commercial. That is if we can get the line of sight through VDOT. Also was noted that they didn't realize that she actually had a dairy operation there either. And they don't have a commercial permit for that anyway. So I've opened up a whole can of worms by requesting VDOT to review it, but we're doing what the zoning ordinance requests us to do. So we're just kind of on hold until we can get some of these issues worked out. But I thought I would at least present it to the Planning Commission for preliminary review tonight, in case you all come up with other questions that might need to be answered before we actually go to public hearing.
Where's the line of sight issue? Is this a, I don't know, is this a private road or?
No, that's Chris View. That's
So-
right.
so
The road
Greenwich,
that
I
the
mean.
parcel is joining is a private road, where the problem with the sight distance is gonna be, as far west to the left as you can see.
Right here.
That's
That's
what I was
Greenwich.
wondering. I didn't know if that was a private road running up through there, if that was the issue.
Right here. So if they're pulling out here, they gotta have sight distance to be able to go both ways. And I think they implied they had sight distance one way, but didn't the other. But VDOT's also got another option, which is stopping distance. and it depends on the mile per hour, the speed limit for that road and the grade. And so, you know, I told them to ask them about doing that, because I've done some of these, site distance surveys for VDOT. And I haven't went out there and looked at it. I don't know if they would have, in the past, if they don't have site distance, or they have site distance one way, stopping distance can work the other. So they might be able to make a combination of the two to make it work, but it sounded like they were getting too far
And,
away.
you know, Ms. Tomlinson said, I just watched 3 tanker trucks
And that, I mean,
leave the
not a-
facility, so,
Yeah, they have.
and they have for hundreds
Yeah.
of years.
I think every other day is I'm doing commercial.
That's a
well,
been a
yeah,
dairy
you gotta
operation.
you have to have, at that point, if it's on commercial, you have to have a commercial entrance permit, which consists of having the site distance or the stopping distance. Even though there's
I used to carry
milk trucks
water to people
pull
filling
in
the
there, and back across the road, and have the, whatever.
So we're just kind of in a holding pattern until VDOT and Ms. Tomlinson can work out those details. But as far as my take on it, even at that little 2 acre, 1.5, 2 acre spot where she wants to just put the hauling clinic, when I was doing my analysis of that particular piece of property, you know, it sits amongst 677 acres, all owned by that particular dairy. So when I sent out the adjoining landowner letters, I sent them out to her. So there's not any kind of adjoining landowner issue because she's buffered through that. But, you know, I will make a recommendation as long as traffic and the access can be taken care of and there's not any other concerns. It basically fits within that, even though it's commercial. And the reason that I suggested that it go commercial was if she does a special use permit, she's got to continuously submit documentation. We know that that's what's happening there. It's what will always happen there. So why not just rezone it for her to be able to work her business without having all of the red tape that goes along with special use permits.
You know, like, well, Jamie Castle's got a hauling facility down there across from Healing Springs. And it's not a large acreage.
Nope. It's rather small,
Yeah.
but it stays rather busy too. And I suspect, even though she told me there might be 3, I would say eventually that particular hauling facility would probably employ people and vet techs and become a rather busy establishment, but just based off of what I've seen down at Healing Springs.
So the request is not to rezone to 21.416, it's just the 2 acres.
Well, it will be whatever they decide when the time comes, because she's not actually had Mr. Funk survey it.
Right. Okay.
But that was the flattest spot, she said, back there.
Could do something. That's coming up too on its top.
Does the planning commission see any issues with rezoning that little spot within?
I don't.
I don't see any issues. John?
I think the closest commercial establishment is about a mile or so away by the way the crow flies.
Just out of curiosity, is there any acreage limitations to what is considered commercial?
Not within the
Would
ordinance.
it be the point or the 30,000 square feet, I guess, would be the minimum.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a lot that has to be subdivided, and we know it's gonna be beyond that.
I was just curious.
So 7/10 of an acre is the minimum.
So,
Yeah.
so
Wouldn't
well
be.
above it,
Oh, yeah.
so. So no issues there, just working out VDOT issues.
Yeah,
sounds
we're
like.
basically working out VDOT issues and
VDOT.
surveying issues.
Ain't no survey. I'm knock that out. That's a sidewalk. That's open.
So,
Open and easy, right?
Landowners.
No. Now, the VDOT will be the holdup on that. I may not go through because of it. Like,
and she did say, you know, she got, I know the rest of it's in conservation, but I don't know what the rest of it would prohibit her from being able to put in a haul-in facility in that location.
they probably can't, because
But they might be able to take that 27 acres at some point and put it somewhere else. Could they?
I don't know, I doubt it. Once those are done, they're done.
No, I mean, using the 27 acres that's outside of is there another location where she could get the line of sight she needed? She just didn't want to grade. She wanted to limit the grading.
Well, and that's what Howard was talking about. We could, you know, they might could build a road in a different place and tie into that within the 27 acres that might give them a sight distance. But it wouldn't be as good an entrance as it is where it's at now.
Okay, well, that's that. I mean, I just wanted you to put your eyeballs on it. If you're thinking of questions, just, or after the fact, shoot them to me or call me.
Is she planning on putting any signage up for the facility?
I'm sure they would be. They'd have to be.
So, especially if it goes commercial.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, it's needed. The only, facility in the county is, Jamie's down at Hidden Springs.
Right, we ready to move on? Addition of subdivision design requirement to zoning ordinance per attorney recommendation, review and recommendations.
All right. If you, Brian, you're working on that, if you'll pull up that draft zoning right there, hopefully it'll pull it. So, can you make it a little bit bigger?
Is that too
That's
big?
really big. There you go.
Will this work or smaller?
It's fine, just as long as we can see it. So, remember going through the subdivision ordinance, the attorneys decided that there were certain elements inside of our subdivision ordinance, design requirements inside of the subdivision ordinance that were not allowed to be there because they were illegal based off of certain sections out of the Code of Virginia. Mind you, the subdivision ordinance has not been updated since 2014. Minus the little change that we added for campgrounds, I think, is what we added that one year.
24.
Was it 24 that we added? Yeah. So with that being said, I went through and took those snippets of those design requirements and I created another section inside of the zoning ordinance. And I have, I'm going to read them, Brian, if you will just kind of follow through with where I'm going. Get my little cheat sheet. So first off, in the zoning ordinance, I created a table of contents. And it looks kind of messy right now, but it is on page 4, Brian, I think. Be right coming up. There you go. So I've created a table of contents. It wasn't there. I thought that might help all of us figure out where things are in addition to the general public. So I highlighted the articles and certain aspects of elements that's inside each article. So you can kind of see it's messy now, but it will get cleaned up. And then the second thing that I added in Article 2 was the definitions. And as part of the definitions, I created 2-10, which is agricultural purpose, which also was in the subdivision ordinance at the suggestion of the attorney. So it's there and also inside of the zoning ordinance. In addition to that, we also added 2-12, which is agritourism. That was added to the zoning ordinance. In building, I added the additional language and that is 2-23. There you go. So it also now mimics what the subdivision ordinance says. It says a structure having one or more stories and a roof and a covering, designed, built, and or used for support, shelter, and enclosure of person, animal, say that word. I can't never say that word. Chattel and movable property of any kind. That, in addition to that, I also added easement, and that will be Brian 2-48. A grant by a property owner to use of land for a specific purpose or purposes, or a restriction of the use of land of specific purpose or purposes. Easements may be prudent to an adjacent parcel or in gross. Easements do not include declarations of covenants and restrictions, and the rest of it was struck by the attorney, which now also mimics the subdivision ordinance. Additionally, I revised manufactured home. That is going to be 2-86, which complies with the Manufactured Home Lot Rental Act, Chapter 13, Title 55.1. Also mimics the same definition in the subdivision ordinance, and 2-90 is now manufactured home park. Additionally, this also mimics the same thing in the subdivision ordinance. And I added (2-132), Brian.
Okay.
Subdivision.
Work. Hold on, it froze up on me.
132.
One.
Yeah, 2-132.
Okay.
Should be around page 22, maybe. There you go. Added subdivision, which also is reflected in the subdivision ordinance, and added subdivision class 1 and subdivision class 2. And the reason for that was because I also added in Article 3, general requirements for all zone districts, a new section. And you'll notice all of the restructuring of the number system because of the additional definitions. So in Article 3, I added 13-11.4. It now has its own general requirements and minimum standards of design for Class 1, Class 2, and plan unit development, which was the recommendation of the county attorney. And basically I copied and pasted from the subdivision ordinance to the zoning ordinance. So nothing really changed other than it's taken out of the subdivision ordinance and added here. Then in Article 4, which is the zone districts and official zoning map, basically there will be a numbering sequence change for the zone districts. Whenever I can line all this up, because it's all kind of discombobulated, back right there, Brian, those numbers, page numbers, will reflect where they are in addition to the table of contents. And then lastly, in Article 5, administration of the zoning ordinance, that is those fee schedules that was suggested by the attorney that needs to be reviewed and changed based off of where we are within the current fee schedule, which has not been updated since 2014. So again, I mentioned I had an Excel sheet of all of those fees from around our local entities, and I will get those to you for consideration and discussion next month, hopefully. We can look at maybe updating our zoning ordinance fees. Basically because if you are considered and want to do a special use permit or a variance or a rezone, most everyone is charging anywhere between $250 to $500, and that would cover advertisements, because we're getting eat up in advertisement fees, so it would cover some of those advertisements. So if I think the consensus is if you are wanting to do that, then shouldn't be up to the citizens to pay for your new business or development. So that's where that comes from. And that, folks, is all I have in regards to the zoning ordinance amendments, but there will probably be a few more added to this, but it wouldn't be for what we're working on now. I may have just jumped the gun, Mr. Chairman, about staff updates. Sorry.
That's okay. Any other staff updates?
But yeah. With some of the new language coming in from the General Assembly, there's some new cannabis laws that have been passed. We are seeing some traffic in the building and the planning department about wanting to sell, and I'm receiving some emails about wanting to place cannabis sales within the county. In addition to that, there is some new language in the renewable energy section of the legislation that we will have to amend our zoning ordinance because of the new legislation. So I'm still waiting on Governor Spanberger to provide some insight on that. They've sent some of the language back to the House to try to revise. So I don't know what that is yet, but just know that we'll have to revise some of the language in the renewable energy section. And I think that's all.
Any questions? Well, we do appreciate each one coming out tonight. I apologize for having to miss last month. We was tied up, but we appreciate all the hard work you do. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn. Sound like we had a second. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now adjourned.